David Hale, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Tylia.
Has the Trump administration set a clear deadline for Lebanon to disarm Palestinian factions and Hezbollah?
Well, you hear reports of that. I certainly know that there's a sense of urgency that we have a window of opportunity with a ceasefire that we don't want to lose. And I think any of us who've been involved in negotiations like this, if either side of a ceasefire believes the other side's not living up to its commitments, you start to get problems. So I think it's very important for the Lebanese side to, I know it's a hard set of steps that they're going to have to take, but they agreed to do it, to live up to the obligations of the ceasefire as soon as it's possible to do that. And I know that in Washington there's a positive feeling. There is a great hope that this will be successfully achieved, but also a sense of the need to keep momentum going since the ceasefire was in place.
Do you think that time is running out?
I wouldn't say time's running out, but I think the disarming of Hezbollah is just one piece of a big puzzle. We can talk about the details of that.
Mm-hmm.
And these moments of opportunity for a country that has experienced so much pain and violence and trouble as Lebanon can be fleeting. That's not necessarily going to be an opportunity that lasts forever. So we better move. My advice is those who want this to succeed, keep moving.
Can this current Lebanese government broker peace with Israel? Do you think Nawaf Salam is the right person at the right place at the right time to achieve this mission?
Well, I think it's important always, in my experience anyway, in Lebanon, to understand that there are many decision makers involved in doing anything at all, really, in the country, and certainly anything as important as working out a stable and peaceful relationship with the neighbors. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet, of course, are extremely important in that. And I think that Prime Minister Salam is someone I've known for many decades, and I believe that he has Lebanon's best interests in mind. He understands the history of Lebanon and its experience with its neighbors as well as anybody, and so he undoubtedly has questions and doubts that need to be addressed. We also look to the President of the Republic and the Speaker of Parliament to play their roles. The Speaker, particularly because of the fact that he is from the South and feels these issues so closely, and the President, not just as President of the Republic, but his long experience in security as Commander of the Army, which gives us great confidence that he can, with great self-assurance, help make the judgments and decisions that are necessary. But they're going to be collective decisions. We all know that in Lebanon, because it has to reflect a reasonable number of the various pieces of the Lebanese mosaic. And so I am confident that that can happen with our help.
Mm-hmm. How do you interpret Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi's latest statements? He said that Lebanon is a sovereign state and has no Iranian interference.
Well, that's news to me. I'm glad he's saying it. The test will be whether he actually means it, or whether, even more importantly, his leaders mean it. And this is the key question. But we need to hold them accountable to those kinds of statements. In our negotiations, our contacts with the Iranians, those of others who are in touch with the Iranians, and certainly the Lebanese leaders, we pocket this, and if there's a violation or a contradiction of that, to point it out just as publicly as he did in his assurances.
Do you think that Hezbollah is on its last legs politically and militarily in Lebanon?
I would say militarily, certainly they have suffered a devastating setback, which will be very hard to see how they can recover from this situation. And it's not just because Hezbollah directly has suffered, but because their Iranian masters have done so and are no longer in a position to really provide the support and supplies to Hezbollah that were required. And of course, Syria is fundamentally changed as the sort of feeding ground and operational field supporting Hezbollah politically. And I think that's a question for the Lebanese more than for me. But I think it's important for Lebanon to think thoughtfully and carefully, all Lebanese, just as they did after the end of the Civil War, on how to make sure that all communities' rights and needs are being met, but under the umbrella of the state and not of individual militias. And that the one militia that did not disarm, in fact disarms, the one militia that maintained a financial and even was directed by a foreign government, no longer do so. The one militia that behaved as if it was the state and making decisions of life and death on behalf of all Lebanese, even though all Lebanese didn't have a say in those decisions, that they're no longer independent like that. The politics will, in my opinion, will be for the Lebanese to sort out.
If Lebanon refuses to join the peace track, do you think that Lebanon will be isolated from the US administration and will be the subject of further sanctions?
I think those are valid questions, but I might rephrase it only slightly in saying that I think the great fear that I have is that Lebanon will be left behind. You know, there used to be a phrase, I remember when I first came to Lebanon, that many Lebanese would say, Lebanon will never be the first to make peace with Israel, but will never be the last. Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, it looks like you're in jeopardy of being the last, and there's no reason for it. I mean, there's been tremendous sacrifices, and the emotional turmoil and the loss of life and property up until this moment in South Lebanon, of course, creates a psychological burden that makes people hesitant. There's a fear and lack of confidence in the Israeli side that needs to be developed in order for there to be a peace. But there's no serious territorial dispute the way there is with the Palestinians. So I really believe this is an opportunity that the Lebanese should seize. And you know, there's going to be competition for resources and attention by Syria, Ukraine, Gaza, South Lebanon. And if you're not sort of making the tough decisions here in Lebanon that need to be made that would give outside friends of Lebanon the confidence to put their resources and effort into helping Lebanon, there are other challenges in the world. And I don't mean that as a threat, it's just I think, objective reality that will draw the attention of the administration. And if there are people who are actively blocking peace and who want to continue a state of war, I think the Trump administration may well see what its options are.
Washington's strategic focus quietly shift from Lebanon to Syria.
Well, it's interesting that certainly the president's attention has been drawn to Syria in a way that was not the case before. But I also believe, from what I see, that he has many friends and contacts from the Lebanese community in the United States who have his ear. And so I don't think there's a risk that he's going to forget Lebanon. The Israelis won't let him forget Lebanon anyway, because if they don't see progress on the ceasefire, they will be back to us right away.
Yes.
But there's now an opportunity in Syria that we need to attend to, and Syria could go in many different directions. We have a lot of question marks, I think, rightly so, as I hear here in Lebanon as well, about what's happening there and what it means for the future. And so I think while I would advocate making sure that we focus on Lebanon as Lebanon, we also have to bear in mind there are linkages, there just are, because of geography, and that if Syria is not successfully stabilized, Lebanon will continue to be in jeopardy. So I wouldn't view it as like a choice or a zero-sum game between Lebanon and Syria and competing for our attention. On the contrary, I think they both require different approaches, but require our attention.
Rumors are swirling that U.S. Deputy Envoy to the Middle East, Morgan Ortagus, will be replaced by Mr. Joel Rayburn. What's really behind this shift? Do you think that there will be a change in policy or in strategy?
Well, that's the key question. I mean, I'm less focused on the personnel turmoil. I have no information or anything to offer your viewers on that, except that every administration, and the Trump team in particular, is, I think, acutely feels this. There's a tendency to change the personnel. You know, there's a lot of turmoil, a lot of competition. Put that aside, will that lead to a shift in the policies? What is it? Are these decisions being made because of policy choices, or will there be unexpected consequences from these decisions that have policy consequences? It's too early to say. I just think those who care deeply about the Middle East and about Lebanon, as I include myself in that, need to keep reminding anyone who wants to listen that what we do with Iran and our Iran strategy has immediate consequences in places like Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, Yemen, and Israel. And so we can't pretend there's some disconnect or delinkage between these things, because the linkage exists by reality. So the idea that somehow we can do a deal with Iran and later on attend to the regional issues, I think is based on a false premise.
Trump is a deal maker and a disruptor and an unapologetic advocate for peace. How Lebanon leader truly understand that this administration has shifted and isn't playing by the Biden era rules anymore?
Well, I think this is a challenge for many in the world to understand President Trump and what he stands for and how best to interact with him. And it comes most successfully from meeting him and President Trump, again, in my experience, and I was one of his senior State Department officials in the first administration, he doesn't really like his relationships with important countries to be mediated by other people. He wants to have that direct access, to make his direct assessments about situations, and he'll often come up with very unconventional ideas. So I do think that Lebanese leaders who have been dealing with more conventional presidents hopefully are absorbing that. And I have not really yet sensed, I've only been here a day, but that there is a lack of recognition of that change. I know that others may feel differently. So I would just keep the interaction, and both sides will learn more about the needs of each side today. I think there's an enormous opportunity. The President has clearly put on the agenda helping Lebanon gain its sovereignty, restore its economy, and come to peace with its neighbors. Those are the three most important goals for America, and I hope for the Lebanese, and we can work on these together.
If a new US-Iran nuclear deal is struck, will it stabilize the region or embolden Tehran and its proxies to double down?
It intends on both how we approach getting the deal and what the deal itself is. We may get a very good deal, which exceeds even the JCPOA, which would demonstrate that there has been a real setback in power in Iran and that they feel a need to compromise. That would be probably pretty positive. I mean, who wants a nuclearized Iran, right, if we succeed in achieving that? And that would be a signal to everyone in the region that Iran's power is contained. If it's not a good deal, if it's a deal that doesn't really allows the Iranians to do much more than was the case with JCPOA in terms of their nuclear deal and doesn't address the regional issues, then I think it empowers the Iranians. And so we have to hope that President Trump understands that. I'm sure he does at some level, and we don't fall into that trap. The other thing I worry about is that the Iranians are just going to wait. They're going to slow the negotiations down. They're going to seem like they're positive, but they're not. It's hard for the president to enter into a negotiation when you decide to pull out, and then what are the consequences of pulling out? Does that mean you have a military option now only, or what is it? So I think we also have to be very careful about how we proceed, and don't let the Iranians take advantage of a slow process of this. And I would hope also that we make sure that in these negotiations, we make clear not only to the Iranians that we expect Hezbollah to disarm, but we expect Iran to help put pressure on Hezbollah to disarm if they want to deal with us in normal relations.
Do you think that would be possible? It's an option?
I think we should be pressing it very hard. It's asking something we've always wanted, and people have been skeptical that the Iranians are serious, but if the foreign minister's comments today are sincere, and who knows, my own opinion, but hold them to it. If that's what he's saying, then it requires Iran to tell its proxy to stop violating Lebanese sovereignty and cooperate with the Lebanese authorities, who themselves are asking for a monopoly on weapons in the state, which is what every normal state in the world has.
Thank you so much, David Hale, for this interview.